Los Angeles, Hollywood, Silicon Beach, home to entertainment, tech, marketing, advertising, public relations, music, and fashion. LA is the convergence of all things media, and there are more stories out there that you could possibly tell in a lifetime. It's all right in our backyard, and AMA Los Angeles is here to help you get the word out. Hello and welcome to Get the Word Out. I'm your host, Philip Rebentish, president of AMA Los Angeles. My guest today is Anthony Mora, president and CEO of Anthony Mora Communications, and PR for Writers. Welcome to the show, Anthony. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell our audience a little bit about the difference between those two entities. What is the difference in those missions?
Well, it's really PR for Writers is a subset of Anthony Mora Communications. And I've had Anthony Mora Communication for going on over 25 years, which is kind of scary to say. And PR for Writers and Filmmakers, we started about 10 years ago because we thought it really needed its own focus. You know, they are storytellers, and our mantra in the overall company is effective PR is effective storytelling.
Right.
So who better to tell stories than writers and filmmakers? But they don't always understand that when it comes to their marketing. They understand that within the story they're telling.
Right.
But then a lot of times they'll think that's enough. And so often it is step one.
Right, of the process.
Yeah.
So speaking of writers, I know that you started your career as a journalist and an editor. So how did that, I mean, it seems like a natural progression, but can you tell us a little bit about the beginning of your career and how that led to the changeover of working the public relations side of it as opposed to the journalist and editor side of it?
Yeah, sure. And in a lot of ways it was a natural progression. A lot of my journalist friends thought it was jumping to the dark side. but
how could you?
Yeah, exactly. It was like, well,
you've left the tribe.
I want to eat, you know.
Right. Oh, there's that.
There's that. And that's where I think I really learned about PR. Because as an editor, I was getting pitched all the time.
Okay.
And generally, people pitch me what they found interesting or what they thought their clients found interesting.
Right.
They didn't think much about what I or my readers thought interesting. So a lot of times I would get this great story, and I'd say, that's a really fascinating story, thank you, and I'd hang up. And what they didn't do was build the bridge between their story and my readers.
Right.
So a lot of times, you know, people think, I don't understand why it's not working, I have such a great story. But what's a great story for the Wall Street Journal is going to be very, very different than what's a great story for Redbook, or what's a great story for your local media, or what's a great story for CNN. And it might all be that umbrella story, but you'd better talk to them in the language they understand. They don't have time. You know, that was one thing I learned as an editor. I need it, and I need it quickly, and I need to know you're working with me, you're not selling me.
Right.
The one thing, if you try and sell the media, adjectives, superlatives, this is the best, this is the greatest. You know, I used to have people, you know, were telling me, well, tell Oprah that she'll thank you for pitching this. And it'd be like, no, she really won't.
Yes, because she's really in need of seeking external content.
Yeah, so that's where I really learned PR.
Okay.
Where it all came down to the story, to having a strong narrative, making it succinct and quick and relevant.
So you founded your company in 1990. At what point did you, or do you think the internet really started impacting the public relations business?
It was, the first thing that really impacted was email. Email was such a game changer, and you're looking there in 96 to, I think at 2001, half of the people in the country were on the internet.
Right.
So by that time, you know, all of the initial media people were already on. So being able to contact the media and not be mailing stuff, that was huge. That was the biggest initial change. And then it was having traditional media, having online outlets where you could get stuff on quickly, and then having outlets that were verifiable, that were, you know, media outlets online. Because when, you know, before the internet, if I'd start working with a client, they wouldn't see anything for 8, 12 weeks.
Sure.
And that
Right,
was
sure.
really hard for someone
Time.
So
Right.
now we can get something up in a week, 10 days, sometimes, quicker.
Right.
So just the expediency of everything, and also being able to touch base so much more quickly. With the media.
Everything's fast.
Yeah.
So, bringing us up to today, AMA Los Angeles did a co-event with the Public Relations Society of America, the Los Angeles chapter here, about the name of the event was Blurred Lines, and what we were talking about was who is really in control of social media. Is it coming from the marketing side of things? Is it coming from the PR side of things? As a PR guy, how do you feel about who's controlling the message of social media for professional clients?
To me, that question is almost a moot point. It's really, how is the person who's using it? And you're going to have some PR people who are using it completely wrong. You're going to have some marketing people who are using it that way.
Right,
and
sure.
then you're going to have some that are really on message. What I've found the biggest confusion is a lot of people now don't realize that there is a difference between traditional PR and social media. For example, when I'm hiring now, and I'll ask someone, well, tell me a bit about, what you've done in traditional PR.
Right.
They'll say, well, I did this on Facebook. I did this on Twitter. And I'll say, great, tell me something you did on traditional PR. I did this on Instagram. I did this on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And there is a melding between the two.
Right.
But they're very different animals. And the main reason that I decided to focus on PR is that it was and is and remains the only form of marketing that gives you the legitimacy and validation of being a news story. There's that third-party validation to it.
Right.
Then you can take that and push that through social media, and social media is incredibly important. And I think the strongest type of marketing outreach is the melding between the two. So it's not an either-or.
Right.
And to me, it's not so much in who's control and who's not. It's who understands, the process.
And the message.
And because social media can become such a rabbit hole. I was talking to someone the other day who had
Sure.
hundreds of thousands of followers and was getting all sorts of likes, and was doing his business absolutely no good. And that's because his likes were to very, very silly posts. So he wasn't talking to his market. He was going into seeing how popular he could become.
Right.
Well, that's a really different thing.
Sure, it's two different things.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and sometimes people get lost in that, in how many likes do I have, how many followers do I have. It's where our focus are these followers going to help your ROI?
So I want to circle back to something you were talking about earlier in terms of storytelling. And we hear that a lot now in the advertising and marketing world is, yes, you need to tell a story. From your perspective, why is that crucial to the public relations side of things?
It is PR, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. And, there's the type of PR where you send out press releases and so has been made vice president in the company. It's B2B type of PR.
Okay,
That's
sure.
a whole different animal. But if you want to get a story, a feature story, an interview, you need to engage that media. And storytelling, there have been studies shown that when someone is telling a story, the storyteller and the listener, that is the brainwaves that's kind of meld. And we are made to hear stories. And a story needs a narrative. So just to say, this is great, this is wonderful, that's not a story.
Again, adjectives.
Yeah,
Right.
And it's, tell me your journey. Tell me, and also look beyond, because we represent writers, and one of the arguments I have with publishers look at the book.
Okay.
We look at the author. And the author brings so many more stories. And it may not be exactly connected to the book, but the author is going to bring the book in. It's his or her baby. Selfishly, they're going to bring it in. But the author's journey could be what gets us into,
Sure.
So it's really looking at how many stories you have and then looking how to tell them in a compelling way.
So if you were to give quick advice to someone, a writer, a young writer, maybe just got out of college, starting their career, that was interested in a career in public relations, what advice would you give them to get going in the business?
Is study the media. Because a lot of people jump in and, they're pitching the sports writer a story on flowers. You know, they're
Right.
they don't know who they're pitching. So first of all, is study it, see if you like it. I mean, to me, it's still really exciting to see that suddenly, you know, if we got someone on Time Magazine, do we have someone on CNN?
Right.
You know,
Sure.
or local media. And
Absolutely.
it changes part of the narrative of what's going on. It changes careers.
Right.
And so it's, you know, it's incredibly exciting.
Right.
But you have to understand it, and you have to realize how it works.
Right.
And just to jump in, you know, because a lot of people are going straight from journalism school and I'm going to go into PR.
Right.
Well, journalism isn't PR. It helps you learn it.
Right. And how to
but they're
write.
different animals.
Right.
How to write.
Right.
Learn how to write.
So, speaking of that, I know you've got a conference coming up in August for writers. So, can you tell us a little bit about that conference? And I believe you've got a book that's talking about that as well. So, tell us a little
'cause
bit about that.
I wrote a book called Spin to Win, and I wrote that, you know, quite a few years ago, actually.
Okay.
And then instead of writing the next book, I did doing blog posts because they were so much more immediate.
Sure.
And then we're doing a seminar that's called PR for Writers and Filmmakers.
Okay.
And basically, this is for, because my philosophy is if you can afford to hire someone to do your marketing, you're crazy if you don't. You know,
Okay.
it's use your talents to build your business. You know, but if you can't afford it, there's things you can do. Don't wait. And so with the seminar and with the book, it's giving people tools, nuts and bolts of, because you can make really big mistakes.
Right, sure.
You know?
Sure, absolutely. And then
So-
it's gone and it's out.
It's gone and it's out.
Instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is teaching people what they can do on their own.
Okay.
You know, and because the biggest mistake people make is wait. I'm going to wait until whatever this is in
Right.
quotes happens. Start now. You know, when I'm working with films, it's like I'm telling, get me in on the script process.
Right, sure.
You know, I had a film festival call me one Wednesday, tell me, we're opening on Saturday, can you help us? It's like, please, you know.
No. So about your seminar in August, how can people find out about it? When, where, how?
It's prforwriters.com.
Okay.
It's going to be at the Sidewalk Studio Theater, and that's in Toluca Lake in the Burbank area of LA.
Okay.
And if people can't make that one, we're going to be having others, and then we're going to start doing some seminars as well for people who aren't in the LA area.
Perfect. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for coming in
This was
today.
a real
It's
pleasure. This was
always love to hear about different aspects of the public relations business and marketing because it is all blending together. So,
It is,
So
yeah.
thank you for that. And I want to thank our sponsor, Manhattan Advertising and Media Law. And of course, I want to thank the World Center of Broadcast Media in Hollywood. Thank you so much for watching today.